All right, my name is Heather Gray, and the program is Just Peace, and I want to welcome you all to the show tonight. I'm sitting in here with co-producer Cliff Albright, and we are going to be talking with Rashid Nuri. This is our monthly program with him. Rashid is of the Truly Living Well Center for Natural Urban Agriculture, and we have a lot to talk about. You all have moved to this new location. I know you're doing all this great stuff over there now as you're developing it and coming up with new plans and offering classes. So I've said it, right?
Said which?
Have I said it all?
Oh, no. No,
I didn't think so.
No, that's a good start. I just coming over here to the studio. I just drove by Wheat Street, and
this is your older site, right, where you moved from? Okay.
And they have cleaned it up. They've cut down all the weeds that have grown over the last 6 months.
Right.
So that was nice to see it a little cleaner than it had been. But we like our new spot. It's an anchor of the West Side development. It's coming along. We got our beds in. We're going to start putting up the hoop house this week. The aquaponics is going up. We'll have a greenhouse, pavilion, cooler, and all that by springtime.
Excellent. So for those who don't know about a hoop house, tell us what it is.
A hoop house is a greenhouse over dirt. Greenhouse is usually where you start plants. A hoop house will help to extend the season on both ends. You can get the warm season crops in the ground up early, and they'll stay in the ground later. So what that means in practical terms, instead of having to wait till June to get tomatoes, you can have tomatoes in March and April and have it extend all the way into December. So that's the value of a hoop house. You know, Atlanta, it's unique. We're able to grow all year round here, but some of the summer crops, as soon as they get a frost on them, they go. Ordinarily, your frost dates are Good Friday or April 10th is when the last frost, and November 10th is generally the first frost. That's historical. These last several years, it's been all upside down. Here it is, and we're in the last week of November, and folk haven't even put on neck scarves yet.
I know.
It's absolutely
talk
amazing.
about climate change, right?
Well, yeah. I'm not so sure it's all man-made, but yes, things are different than they have been in the past. And that's one of the things that makes agriculture such a unique art and science, is that you don't know what's going to happen. And there's an opportunity to learn every single season something new.
Just get back to Truly Living Well. Now, Truly Living Well is urban agriculture. It practices urban agriculture. And we have everybody's been talking about, the news has been on about so much about the loss of Fidel Castro. Now, one of the things that the Cubans have done significantly is to develop a strong urban agriculture center in its various cities. And I was fortunate to be visiting Cuba a few years ago and was so impressed. I mean, I already knew a fair amount, but I was observing some of what was happening in Havana. What about that, Rashid? You and I have had lengthy discussions about the importance of urban agriculture and the fact now that we have in the United States, 80% of the American population is living in cities, is that correct?
Urban areas.
In urban areas, yeah. So what's the distinction between city and urban areas? What do you mean? Is there a distinction to be made there? Did I miss something there? No?
Well, how would I make that distinction? Urban area, we have a metropolitan urban area, and some of it's unincorporated. It's not in cities. But it's all part of the metroplex that makes up greater Atlanta. So urban areas do not necessarily have, urban agriculture doesn't have to actually be in the city, but if it's in the region where all the people live, then I would still consider it urban agriculture.
Well, one of the things that's impressed me when you and I have had discussions about this is the sizable amount of land that's available for growing vegetables in the city. It's sizable, right?
Oh, yeah. Here in Atlanta, we've had a lot of growth has gone on in the last few years, but you got 900,000 to 1 million acres that is available. It's open or has trees on it, and you probably need 30,000 acres to provide all the fruits and vegetables to feed everybody. So we have a very unique situation here. Let's rewind just a bit. You want to talk about the law? You mentioned the loss of Fidel Castro, and I would argue. No, I would suggest a little different languaging. I think that we're going to find that the legacy of Fidel Castro is going to grow. It's not going to diminish.
Absolutely.
So I don't see it as it's not a loss, because nothing gets out of this thing alive. Nothing, no nothing, no thing gets out of this plane alive. You know, we come in and we go out. But he was here. So the question I always ask is, what contribution was made? And Fidel made tremendous contributions to humankind, to mankind, on so many different levels. He led a revolution, kicked all the U.S. companies out of that country. He came to this country and begging to do business with the U.S. and got snubbed. He turned to the Russians because they had to survive somewhere or another. The Russian Empire fell apart. So what Fidel going to do? He was still standing. His country is still standing despite the opposition that it has had from both the East and the West. And the most remarkable thing is the extent to which he was able to help other people. He would send his doctors around the world. He would send his troops around the world in defense of freedom and justice in the purest, cleanest sense that we can think of. And because of it's only 90 miles away from the United States. It's the closest, well, I guess it's not the closest of the Caribbean if you consider Bermuda in them. But of the southern Caribbean, they're the closest. And they didn't have food. But he figured out how to feed all his people. That's a bad boy. That's a bad boy. And how he did it was by turning the cities, Havana, into an urban agricultural oasis. They grew all their big meat and their grains, rice, potatoes, and so forth out in the countryside, but everything else was done right there in the city. The bakeries were inside, the compounds. You would have one of the house, somebody was baking bread they could sell to the people right there, and the vegetables all in those plazas in their compounds. So it's a remarkable thing, and it's an exemplar for much of the world to see. So there are a lot of us that are in this urban agricultural business who look upon Cuba as being an exemplar of what is possible through urban agriculture. You know, our motto at Truly Living Well is we grow food, we grow people, and we grow community. And I'll point out that most humankind, people live within walking distance of where their food was produced. You don't have that here in this country, but you sure did in Cuba, because people walk out their door and there's their food. Every space that they could find to grow food in the city, they did it. And that's a beautiful thing. All right, and this is because they had a leader who said, let's do this. And here's a man, in his last days, he wore running suits. Mm-hmm. He used to wear his fatigues. You didn't see him listening to some of these other commentators talking about how he was stealing all the people's money. He didn't steal nothing. Everything was invested right back. Listening to the news coming, they talked about Arafat. Arafat lived in a little tiny room. He had 4 uniforms when he died. I mean, this is why people like Arafat and Castro are held high by their people, the people that they led, because they were not corrupt. And now, you can always find dirt on somebody. I mean, anybody. You can find something to get mad at him about. But you didn't see him stealing billions of dollars and going living on the Riviera, and having any kind of an ostentatious life. He even stopped smoking Cuban cigars. Okay? Now, anybody that smokes cigars knows that's special. He stopped smoking them, probably for health reasons. Got to be a bit much. But that's from my experience, from my knowledge, that's the one luxury that he really had and enjoyed was his Cuban cigars.
Unlike a lot of dictators that the U.S. actually props up and support, who are very much the opposite.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely.
I just think it's really interesting the point you were making about the urban agriculture in Havana and on the island, because a lot of times we talk about the importance of urban ag here in places like Atlanta and other cities around this country, and we talk about it as a model of being in terms of being able to feed yourself in a community and a nation, being able to feed yourself. But right there in Cuba, you see it wasn't theoretical. Like literally, without that kind of investment, without that kind of philosophy, does the island survive an embargo by the world's whatever superpower? So it's more than theoretical.
Oh, it's more than theoretical. I mean, you look at the 2 Bay of Pig invasions that they beat back, all the attempts to kill him. Castro is a giant.
More than 600 times. A lot.
600 times.
More than 600 times. A lot apparently by the CIA.
Yeah.
Efforts to try to kill him.
Yeah, well, CIA, we can blame them for everything.
Well, that's true.
Right. Now the technology has stepped up. NSA becomes one of the bad guys too. So.
Well, that's true as well. All right, so we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in just a moment. Stay tuned. All right, again, my name is Heather Gray. The program is Just Peace. I'm here with co-producer Cliff Albright, and we're talking with Rashid Nuri of the Truly Living Well Center for Natural Urban Agriculture. Your contact information, Rashid, what is it?
Our website is trulylivingwell.com. My email address is rashid@trulylivingwell.com. Our office phone number is 678-973-0997. And my phone number is 404-520-8331. And I think I got that right.
All right, good. All right, we were talking about Cuba and urban agriculture and also urban agriculture here with what you're doing, Rashid, and around the country. We're seeing it expanding exponentially, it seems to me. People are becoming more concerned about the food that they're eating. But one of the critical things that we are also talking about is what's happening with the Standing Rock mess in North Dakota and the Dakota Sioux and them wanting to protect their water from some perhaps oil spill in the future. So I thank them for being so concerned about that and taking a stand, actually. But this is also what urban agriculture plays a significant role in, organic urban agriculture, because it is not using chemicals that spoil the earth and our health, right? And threaten our health and the earth. I guess I should say it that way. But so respond to that, Rashid.
Well, I hope the Standing Rock is not just about water and organics. I think it's more about sovereignty. This is their land, and they're being forced to take an oil pipe to go across there. Yes, organic agriculture is growing exponentially. More and more people are concerned about their food, growing it close to home, creating a local food economy. But you got a situation up there where they want to bring an oil pipe, bring that oil shale down from the north down to, I guess, to the Gulf so they can refine it. And
ship it out somewhere else, I think.
Or back in. I mean, one of the things that the America is some of the folks you listen to taking pride is the U.S. is not dependent on the world's oil anymore, and it's primarily because they're getting that shale oil. But the price of oil is so low right now that it's not particularly economic to produce shale oil because it's pretty expensive. And the production of shale oil is very destructive to the environment. You pump
and apparently it uses an enormous amount of energy to produce in the first place.
Yes, it does. Energy is why the price is the problem. You got to put water down there, flushes the oil up, and you got to extract it and then ship it. It's expensive. And here's the joke about it. Water, where I think you had asked me earlier about water, and it's very important that water is the most important thing there is. 3/4 of your body is water. 3/4 of the Earth's surface is water. We need water to survive. The plants can't survive without water. And we don't understand the significance. That water costs more than oil does? Did you know that?
No.
Okay, it takes 8, those little bottles of water that you buy for $1, okay? It takes 8 of those to make a gallon. So that means the water is worth $8 a gallon. The president and chairman of Nestle wants to privatize. He thinks it's best that water be privatized in the world. Now, to put that in some perspective, there are 42 gallons of oil in a barrel of oil. Do you know what oil's selling for today?
What?
Somewhere between $45 and $50, depending on what type it is. For a barrel, there are 42 gallons of oil. So this means oil is worth about $1.15 a gallon versus water that you're paying for as much as $8 a gallon. That's a precious resource, and it's being privatized. California is the richest agricultural producing area in the entire history of the world, and they have no water. So what are they doing? They're bringing water from other parts of the country and bringing it out there and making the taxpayers pay for it.
And they're also using that huge aquifer, that huge ancient aquifer that's running out of water as well.
Well, all over. I mean, that's what's happening out in Oklahoma. They're having all those earthquakes because they're taking all the oil and the gas out of there, so there's nothing to hold up the surface of the earth, and the water's disappearing. The aquifer in the Midwest, all the aquifers are going down. Need some rain. We've gone 6 weeks here in Georgia without any rain. It was the middle of October, first half of October, last time we had rain here. So they say it's going to rain for a day and a half, which is great. That ground is dry out there. Well, water is very important. So, yes, the folks at Standing Rock saying they don't want to have their water polluted with that oil. And oil pipes always break. There's always pollution that comes with it. So that's inevitable. So I think that they've taken a very constructive stance in saying that that's what they want to do is protect their water. But I think that the argument should be deeper than that. It's about their sovereignty. They were entitled. That land is theirs. It was ceded to them by the U.S. government. The U.S. government keeps no treaties.
Right.
And they don't keep treaties. They only have treaties as long as it's convenient. As soon as they're not convenient, they break it. So to stand up in front of, and I guess over this weekend, they're asking those people to move from one spot to another. They can't do that. If they, in my opinion, once they move, they say, "Oh, this is not convenient for y'all to be here. We want you to move over to this spot." And they get up and move. That's problematic to me because that means that they have again ceded their sovereignty to somebody else, telling them, "We want you to go over here because we think you'll be more comfortable over in this other spot than the one that you're in now." Oh, please, these people are something else.
and it's so interesting because you've got this belief in this country that issues in terms of the United States government and Native American nations, indigenous nations, that land theft and sovereignty issues and encroachments are just history. That was the 1700s, that was the 1800s. But we see to this day it's the same issue. People sitting around celebrating Thanksgiving last week. And in 2016, you've got indigenous nations that are still having to fight for their land, fight for their sovereignty, as you just said, fight for their natural resources. And it's just mind-boggling.
Oh, brother. Let me add another level to it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That sovereignty issue you discussed, there's so much subterfuge that goes on. That whole housing crisis of this decade, of this century, was the same thing. You got all these folks, you give them subprime mortgages. Mortgages go bad. They move them out of their house. They take back that land. Then the city becomes gentrified because they moved all the black folk out to the country. And now all the white folks are moving back into the central city, taking up this prime land at cheap prices. The prices have been depressed because they sold them houses they couldn't afford. And then all the folks that was the bankers and the insurance companies who were making all that money on these subprime, they went collapse. They knew ahead of time, but they got bailed out because they knew the U.S. government was going to bail them out. So we can look
they
at
should have gone to jail, right?
Oh no, that's not going to happen.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's what probably should have happened.
It's not going to happen.
No, I know.
So you got the same issues. It's still sovereignty.
Mm-hmm.
All right, it's still people having the land and being moved from where they are at the behest into the inuring to the benefit of the landed aristocracy in this country. It's a problem.
Mm. And that's really what connects all these issues that we've talked about. When we talk about Cuba, you're talking about land. You're talking about land and sovereignty, right? Mm-hmm. When you talk about Standing Rock, we're talking about land and sovereignty. When we talk about, like you just mentioned, housing and gentrification, we're talking about land and sovereignty. Sovereignty in the sense of gentrification impacts the politics of a community and who controls the land and who controls the mechanisms of government. So it really always comes back to, if you could talk about independence, rights, it really comes around to land and sovereignty.
Yes, it does. And, then what you can do about it. Mm-hmm. Our slogan is we grow food, we grow people, and we grow community. And so you ask about, Heather, some of the, we got some very talented people who are running our programs at Truly Live On. I'm really proud of the crew.
Excellent.
That we have together.
Right.
But I think that the thing this year, this is, from a financial point of view, this has been the best year that Truly Live Well has ever had. All right, by God's grace. We're still standing. We're beginning, come the new year, it'll be the beginning of our 12th year. And there are a lot of people who have come and gone. But what we have been able to do and secure in this past year is an investment in urban agriculture by the city of Atlanta, which has never happened before. Mm-hmm. With the land that we are farming on now belongs to the city, and they're ceding that to us. They've actually put cash money into the urban agriculture. That hadn't been done before. So that portends well for the future of urban agriculture in metropolitan Atlanta, that if we can get institutions, and you can't get any institution more significant than the city itself, to invest in this work, to invest in this local food system that we are creating, I think that's progress. And I'm very pleased to have been a part of that, to be a part of that, and to see this evolving the way it has. You got young people growing all over the place. You got young people saying us old fogies need to get out of the way so they can provide leadership. And you know what? I absolutely 100% unequivocally agree. Okay? It's time. I want to see some young blood. I want to see some other people, new people involved in this. It has been a struggle. I mean, it's been a lot of work to get this, to get where we are, but we've made progress, and I'm very pleased.
I'm glad 2016 was good for truly living well, because I'm ready to see 2016 get on out of here.
Well, you know, brother, let me, you know, and do not misunderstand. I got to be careful my language. It hasn't been easy.
It's just us talking. Nobody, you know.
Yeah, you ain't nobody here, right?
Right.
It has not been easy. It's been a lot of work. It's been hard work. It's been hard work by a lot of people, and it's not just Truly Living Well. There are a whole lot of other folk out there that are engaged in and involved in this work. And you know, each year that passes, and you know, it's like the rings on a tree. Have you ever seen a giant sequoia tree? Oh man, I wish everybody could see one of them things. Those are the dinosaurs of trees. Man, them trees been around thousands of years, and every year they get a new ring. So, you know, we Truly Living Well's got 12 years, so we got 12 rings. I know how many I got on my body. I can feel all them, you know. But we continue to grow, and I am now at an age or a stage in my life where I can look back and say, wow, look and count, monitor the milestones that have taken place. It's so funny. I had it today. I was down at probate court trying to get some information, and they pulled up something that came up my file from 1968.
Oh my goodness!
That's what I said too.
Wow.
So I had to call up Massachusetts and said, "I'm looking for some court information from 1968." And the man said, "Oh, oh." I said, "Yeah, what year were you born?" He said, "I was born in 1975." He's the boss up there.
Wow.
But to be able, you know, to look back and see all the changes, all the things that have happened over the course of a lifetime, and knowing that you may have had an impact, an effect in some small part of it, makes it all the scars and bruises, makes it all worthwhile.
Excellent. I just want to tell our listeners that you are listening to WRC Atlanta 89.3 FM. We're talking with Rashid Nuri of the Truly Living Well Center for Natural Urban Agriculture, and we're going up the phone lines. Cliff, right? The phone number here into the studio is 404-523-8989. Please give us a call and join this discussion with Rashid.
Let me read you this quote. This is one of my favorite
We do have
quotes.
a caller, but go ahead, please.
Life should not be a journey to the grave with the intention of arriving safely in a pretty and well-preserved body, but rather to skid in broadside in a cloud of smoke, thoroughly used up, totally worn out, and loudly proclaiming, wow, what a ride.
Who said that?
That was Hunter Thompson.
Right. Caller, are you there?
Yes, peace and blessings, Heather. It's Charles Michaud. And
Oh, hi, Charles. Thanks for joining us.
yeah, thank you for the wonderful email. And I do want to say that I'm listening to Rashid. I got goosebumps all over my body, and I had never heard water explained in an economic value so beautifully
Yeah, right.
as Rashid just. I mean, it blew my mind. And also, talking about the land, which is rightfully belongs to the Native Americans. I was reading a report today that the colonel from the Army Corps said that on December 5th, he's going to arrest people for trespassing.
Yeah,
And-
right. I thought that was strange, right?
Yeah. And
He's the trespassing one, I guess, right?
Yeah,
So go ahead.
Right. And, I don't know if many people know this, but there were 742 treaties broken with the Native Americans.
Wow.
This is 742. And it's their land, and these billionaires in Texas, just a few of them, they went to the Middle East and destroyed it for oil, and now they're going to just try to do the same thing in North Dakota, which is shameful. But I called to say that I appreciate you and Rashid so much, and I'm educated and enlightened more so, and you are two of the most wonderful points of light in the city of Atlanta for our community. I just want to say thank you.
Well, thank you, Charles.
Yeah,
It's
well,
so
thank you,
appreciated.
brother.
Thank
I appreciate
you.
it. And peace
Thank
be
you.
unto you.
Thanks.
Peace
Take
and
care
blessings.
now. I think we have another caller. So actually, those shales, I'm originally from Alberta, Rashid, where, that's coming from southern Alberta. I've been talking with some of my relatives a little bit about that. Not enough, but I'll have to get back with them and share some of those thoughts with people.
I
All
want
right, we have a caller, right? Caller, you there?
Yes.
Thank you for joining us. You have a question or comment?
This is a comment. This is Mr. Ray. I just wanted to say I really enjoyed the segment.
Oh, wonderful.
What Brother Rashid was speaking upon kind of remind me of some of the things that I heard from another great person that's being wrongly persecuted for freedom and justice, your Massey Native American chief, Black Thunderbird Eagle, Dr. Malachi York. He had a similar model of getting, working the land and getting back to nature and restoring it to the sovereign and autonomous people. The Yamasee Native Americans, their land stated pretty much span from Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Florida, all of that, Virginia, all of that, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, it should go back to the Native Americans, that are on record in archives as owning it, and we as people need to come together and make sure that we definitely work the land and get back to more natural things before the only home we know of destroys us all off of it.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. You want to respond to that, Rashid?
No, I
I
agree with you.
Thank you for your comments. We appreciate
Thank
it. Just talking about Donald Trump, talking about and others getting rid of migrants or whatever, I'm thinking, well, we're migrants on Native American land, right? They should be kicking us out.
When I was a much younger man, when I was still a schoolboy, I was interested in I'm a child of the 60s. We were talking nation building, black power. And so that's what I studied was the men, as an undergraduate, were the men and women who created the post-colonial world. And my life spans that period. I was conceived in 1947 when India got its independence. Europe ruled the world only from the end of the First World War until 1947. And then you started having the colonial countries becoming independent. And so to see those processes. Now, America is the richest country in the entire history of the world. There's been no empire greater than America. What I studied as a graduate student, and I'm going back around, looping back on this. I wanted to understand what the factors of development were, and to try and do it through statistics and economics and study. And what it boiled down to is land, labor, and capital. Mm-hmm. Those are the three things that you need to build a nation: land, labor, and capital. There is no excuse for the United States not to be the richest country in the world because they stole the land from Native Americans.
Right.
They stole the land. They stole the labor.
Yes,
It looks
from Africa.
Looks like people like me.
Right.
So you got the land, and the capital came from Europe.
Right.
So you have all of these elements that are already there that and you got some of the best land in the world going down through the Midwest. So that's why America's great. Had free land, free labor, and got money from Europe.
So, Rashid, what about water, though, in urban agriculture? Organic urban agriculture, let me put it that way.
Water and agriculture, it's all the same.
I'm talking about not using chemicals is what I'm talking about.
Okay, here's the distinction. You try to make a distinction between organic agriculture and agriculture as far as water is concerned. There's no difference. Water is water, okay? And a lot of people don't realize that when you start adding stuff to water, it's no longer water. Okay?
Oh, good point.
Yeah, water is water. As soon as you add something to it, it's no longer water.
Okay.
But any kind of agriculture, you've got to have water. You got to have water. Now, not using the chemicals is how we grow our food. It's natural, organic, and we want as clean and pure water as we can get. That becomes a problem. Problem is because most of in Atlanta has some of the best municipal water in the country. This is one town you can actually take water out of the faucet and drink it. Many of us don't, but you can, as compared to places like New York or California. You wouldn't think of drinking water in California.
Why?
Oh, it tastes bad. It's just nasty. Okay, I mean, it just doesn't taste like water.
Has it got chemicals in it? Is
Yes.
it polluted?
Yeah, I mean, even the water here, they run it through it. When you go through this treatment plant up here, they're putting all kind of chemicals in there. Primarily chlorine for one, to kill the bacteria that would be in the water.
What's the connection between the the city water that you're just talking about. And I know recently there was a story soon after the Flint hit the news. The Atlanta Public Schools released some information about problems with the water in the schools. I don't know I can't remember if it was lead. Are you familiar with that at all? If not, don't worry about it. We'll just
No, I can't speak to that.
Okay.
But back to I don't want to talk about what.
No, I got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
But back to when our children were coming up, they put fluoride in the water to protect their
Right.
teeth.
What did you think about that?
At the time, I didn't know any better. They put fluoride in the toothpaste, fluoride in the water to make the teeth strong. Now, I can tell you my children didn't have any cavities. They didn't have any sugar either. Okay, so they didn't have any dental problems, but fluoride has other deleterious effects on the body, which they have found out subsequent, and most places are taking that fluoride out now.
Yeah,
Okay,
right.
I mean, so there are all kind of things that you put in the water to clear it, clarify it. Here's one I learned recently. Most of the water you buy, you want to have as alkaline an environment to live in as possible, because disease, cancer, viruses live in acidic environments. So most of the processed water that you drink, the purified water, is acidic. I didn't know that myself. It'll be as low as 3.0 on the acidic scale, and you want to have your water up as close to 7 or above as you possibly can. Spring water is healthy for you. It's cleaner. Okay, but most of those waters, whether it's osmosis and all the different methodologies that they use to purify the water, it's not pure. It's not clean at all. It's acidified. It may have no viruses in it, no bugs in it, but it's not good water for your body because it's helping to acidify an environment that you don't want to have acidic, because it gets acidic enough through all the sugars that we ingest. You look perplexed on that one, Heather.
Oh, I'm just listening. I'm just sort of thinking about.
It's really amazing when we think about what we take for granted here. You know, that how many countries there are where, you got to walk miles to get some water. And so,
And then it's often polluted.
Right.
Ignorance is bliss. Knowledge is a responsibility.
right.
Oh, that's another good quote, Rashid.
And
Is that yours?
Yes.
that's right. Claim it.
Rashid, just talk about the use of water and the water that you need for your urban agriculture production, your organic production, vis-a-vis what industrial agriculture uses. Is there a wasted amount of water that's used, say, in industrial agriculture compared to organic production? I don't know. Or is it all the same?
No, good industrial agriculture is probably going to use less water because they're using drip systems. They're using expensive systems to get that water out.
I see.
Out there. So it's not. Water is water. Plants need water. Whether you're going to do it, you're growing from an industrial, commercial way, or you're growing it organic, you still have to have water.
You still have to have the water, yeah. Right.
So how you distribute the water, the modality, who's paying for the water, where that water comes from, the politics of the water. I mean, here we control the headwaters for the water that goes in Alabama and Florida, and they mad at Georgia because Georgia has the headwaters, and they're trying to come up with some agreements. I'm going to court behind that.
I think we have another caller. Do we?
We did have another caller. He didn't want to be on air, but he did want to ask a question, so he asked me to do it for him.
Okay.
He asked if lemon, he heard that when you put lemon in water, it actually makes it alkaline.
That's my understanding. Yeah, lemons are amazing. They actually if you go through a few varieties. They have a sweetness to them that you don't realize. You think of it just being sour, and sour is associated with acidity. But it actually, when you get it in water and drink it, the effect in your body is to create an alkaline environment.
Yeah, I understood that too. I heard, because I used to think of fruits as being like oranges, like lemons, like limes, and different acidic fruits that would cause you that kind of acid indigestion kind of thing. But it actually is very different from drinking the acid in a soda or something like that.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Thank you, whoever made that call.
Yes.
Question. Thank you very much.
Thank you for doing
Good
that.
one.
So
we moved 125 fruit trees from downtown.
It's just totally amazing to me that you've been able to do that. It's
We
wonderful.
took, those who have known me for a while, when I first started teaching here in Atlanta, my mantra was compost, compost, compost. Now I'm talking about agricultural systems, so I've evolved a little bit. And we spent 5.5 years building that soil down in Wheat Street. And those trees that we had were 3 to 5 years old, and there wasn't no way in the world I was going to leave all that dirt. So we had, a lot of people have know how to build a farm. Not that many have moved a farm. We took truckloads, hundreds of truckloads of dirt and 125 fruit trees, one by one, dug them up and transplanted them over onto the new site. And we're in the middle of that. And I said, whoever came up with that idea was stark raving mad. They're out their minds. But we did it.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, where do we go from here, as Dr. King would say?
This is the fastest hour in radio.
I know, it is. It's true. It's true. But, one of the things when we were talking about Cuban agriculture and urban agriculture and organic urban agriculture throughout the country, one of the things that the Cubans became renowned for, which is what you use as well, is raised bed.
Yeah, I've become fond of raised beds because, particularly for newcomers in the business, because you can control your dirt, you can control the weeds with a great deal of facility when you go up rather than going down. It's a lot less work. If you get out there trying to turn over that dirt and dig into that dirt, that's a lot of work, and that's hard. But if you build a bed, fill it up with good soil, adding in the compost, it's not going to have that much. You're going to minimize your weeds, and it's going to make control a lot easier.
Okay. Now, one of the things I want to tell those of you who are listening, if you're not on my email list or on our email list, please send me an email at heather@wrfg.org. Now, one of the things I put out in my notice about the program with Rashid is when various fruits are in season. So I think a lot of us don't necessarily know that. Do you want to respond to that? I mean, what is in season now, Rashid? What are you
vegetables,
growing now?
greens, and root crops. Here's a way to look at it. We basically have 3 seasons. 2 cool seasons in the summer. In the summer, you grow things that have seeds in it. Those are the fruits. Tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, squashes, those are all fruits. And the fruit is defined as a ripened ovary.
People don't think of a tomato being a fruit, but it is, right?
Yeah, it's a ripened
Tomatoes
ovary.
are
It's got
fruit.
seeds in it.
Yeah.
Watermelon, squashes, all the melons, they're all summer. Think of it this way. If you take one of those things we just mentioned and put it out in the sun in the summertime, it does quite well. You take a leafy green and put it out in the summer, it'll burn up.
Yeah.
Okay? And the reverse is true. If you take a tomato and put it outside in the freezing weather, it turns to mush. But if you put a cabbage, collards, kale out in the cold weather, they do just quite well. All right, so seasonal. And fruits are that way too. You got things that have the seeds on the outside, the berries, strawberries, raspberries, blackberries, those are all seeds that you're eating there. And those are all summer fruits. The fall is when the apples come in, and the apples will store all winter. That's why a lot of the apples you're eating in the springtime were actually harvested in the fall. You got, persimmons are basically, they are a winter fruit. What else? Citrus is a lemon. Citrus is a lemon. Yes, a lemon is a citrus. But citrus is our winter crops.
Okay.
That's when you harvest them is now. And think about it. That's how God is just so amazing. All those citrus fruits are high in vitamin C, which is excellent for keeping colds out.
Let's say what they are, citrus. Oh, that's interesting. That's a good point. Keeping colds out so you don't get a cold.
If you get sick and you start getting a cold, you want a mega dose on vitamin C.
Yeah, right.
That speeds up the Krebs cycle, the metabolic processes.
Right.
And that's what it does. But so grapefruits, oranges, lemons, limes, that's all winter stuff.
Yeah, interesting.
Mm-hmm. And God's amazing, huh?
Yes. All right, so Rashid, our time has just gone so quickly.
I told you, it's the fastest hour in radio.
But I do want you to yet again give information about Truly Living Well. Give the contact information.
Yeah, I love hearing from people. We got another call.
We have another
My
call.
phone number is 404-520-8331, trulylivingwell.com. And on the website at trulylivingwell.com is all the information about who we are, as well as my email address, which is Rashid at Truly Living Well.
Yeah, right. We have a caller, Smukwe.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you? Thank you for
Good.
joining us. Go ahead. You have a question or
Yes,
comment.
thank you
Go
for
ahead.
having me.
pleasure.
Well, I just have a comment to make. The show is always good. I give to make sure that you all stay on the air so we can hear you. But
Thank you.
here's
Thank you for
something-
that.
Yes, you're most welcome. And I know you all touch base on the happenings with black youth being killed, the
Yeah.
young man that was killed in Charleston, West Virginia,
Yes.
just last week by the older white man. I didn't
Yeah.
know if that was going to turn into a hate crime, but I know others have been asking. Also, I'd like to say that in regards to those type of deaths, you all have been doing a great job as far as informing us and letting us know what's going on. So keep up the good work. You're awesome.
Oh, thank you so much. It's so appreciated. Thank you. Thanks.
You're welcome. Bye.
All right.
No, don't get me started on that.
On what? What happened in
Oh, anywhere.
exactly?
How they kill us. I hope y'all have seen that documentary called The 13. 13. Have you seen this, Bookway?
No, but I do know about it. I haven't had an
Tell
opportunity.
us about
to
it.
run
What is it?
Well, the 13th Amendment supposedly freed the slaves, but what they did is it says you're free as long as you're not a criminal. Right. So if you immediately flip it, you free me as a slave and then say invent some crime that you can accuse me of, then I become a criminal and I lose
That's
all
right.
my
And
rights
you lose
again.
your right.
And,
Yes,
and
exactly.
you go right back into slavery.
Exactly.
Right,
And that's why.
Exactly. Right.
No, okay.
Right.
Yeah, that's why you got all these brothers in jail. Okay?
Right.
Because
right.
in this country, I told you, don't get me started on this.
Well, you got a couple of minutes. Go ahead.
By United States has more prisoners per capita, okay, and total numbers than any other country in the world, and most of them are not white. Okay, think about that now. How many Americans are there? 310 million. How many Chinese are there on the planet? 2 billion?
A billion and more.
Yeah, close to 2 billion. They don't even have as many. There are 7 times many more people in China than are in the U.S., and they don't have as many prisons as we have here, and most of them is black. That's how the black families get disintegrated, because the men are killed out the streets or in jail, so it leaves the women unprotected, unsupported. Then you got the Clintons kicked the black folk off of welfare and built up the prison industrial complex. It is an insidious system that we live in, and folk had the choice between Trump and Clinton. Lord have mercy.
So I'm going to ask everyone to stay tuned for Sobukwe and Revolutionary African Perspectives. And I want to thank you, Rashid Nuri of the
thank you,
Truly
Heather.
Living Well Center for Natural Urban Agriculture. And thank you, Cliff Albright.